Hello everyone and welcome to Rombauer's virtual wine dinner. My name's Luke Clayton, winemaker at Rombauer Vineyards.
And I'm Andrew Holloway, the associate winemaker here at Rombauer Vineyards as well.
And before we get started, Andrew, I'd like a big shout out to Chris and Mary of the Wine Vault and Bistro. And then also, of course, Chef Greg, who paired these delicious wines and his food tonight.
I'm very excited. I mean, just looking at what they look like, they're going to pair beautifully with this, as well as they've been great partners for us. So we're really looking forward to, having this great event tonight.
I know, Andrew, but I'm a bit thirsty.
Yeah, so let's get some Chardonnay. So first wine we're going to go into, 2019 Carnero Chardonnay. I'll get Luke. Good host, always pours the guests.
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. And then myself. So while we're going through this, I'll go through a little bit of history of Rombauer Vineyards. Kerner and the family moved here in 1972. He was raised down in Southern California in Escondido and really loved the agricultural lifestyle. And so when he was relocated here from his job, commercial airline pilot, he looked to the Bay Area and really came up here to Napa Valley, loved the community, the agricultural feel, the safety of it, raising a family, and settled up here in 1972 in St. Helena. And that really, he started in the Air National Guard as a fighter pilot, and then went and worked for Braniff Airways, which before my time, but major airline back in the US in the 60s and 70s. And then as he lived here and got to know the neighbors and the winemakers, the owners, really loved the winery community and became a partner in Concrete Vineyards. Ended up getting into that, really learning the business, learning the ins and outs, and then in 1980 started this beautiful winery here, Rombauer Vineyards, the namesake of the family. And actually, a unique thing is, as we're known for Chardonnay, the first wine we ever made in 1980 was a Stag's Leap Cabernet Sauvignon, actually crushed at Schaefer's Vineyards and then stored just about 100 meters above me in Kerner's garage. And classically, he'd open the doors if it got a little hot and then put it in when it got a little cold. So it was truly a garage winery that is now a, beautiful success story, and then allows us to make these beautiful wines. So
it does. Awesome.
Yeah. But really, one of Kerner's key philosophies was making wines that pair beautifully with food. And he has a really rich food history. His great aunt, Irma Rombauer, actually wrote The First Joy of Cooking, whose family still continues that legacy. But Kerner had that where wine should pair beautifully with foods, and back and forth, the food pair beautifully with the wines. So food was always a key aspect for him. And so that's something that, this event especially is beautiful to see how it really plays out.
Let's talk about our first food pairing with this beautiful Chardonnay. First off, we have Old Bay marinated shrimp. And with this wine, it's going to pair so delightfully, like with the shrimp and then the texture of this creaminess and acidity. It's just going to lift this fruit, this freshness you'll get on the palate as you have a little bite of your shrimp and have a little drink of this wine. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, no, I think, acidity of the wine will really brighten and lift the dish. And then those creamy textures that were, buttermilk dressing and that shrimp will play right with the creaminess of the wine. So I couldn't be happier with that first pairing, which really, it makes me think about how we really started on Chardonnay. The first wine, as I mentioned earlier, 1980 Cabernet Sauvignon, but really the second wine we made was 1982 Chardonnay, which is in a completely different style than what you're used to and we love to make nowadays. It was a more austere, lean style. And the big jump in style shift for us was being introduced to the San Giacomo family and Sonoma Carneros. And their fruit sourcing, the richness of the fruit, the bright acidity, the creaminess on the palate that it brought, really allowed us to develop the style. And when we talk about Chardonnay, or this Rombauer Chardonnay, it's really 5 core components. And it's that ripe, rich fruit that we get from the Carneros region. It's a spiciness and the vanilla of the oak. It's a creamy mid-palate, so it's buttery components that we get on the finish from the malolactic
It's my favorite.
fermentation. It is. And then it's all tied together by that really beautiful, bright, natural acidity that we get, again, just from the fruit. It just comes naturally from that region. Those, slightly cooler days in the Napa Valley and then cool nights really retain that acidity, so it really makes a beautiful wine. And it's why it pairs so well with so many dishes. It's because we have that bright acidity but rich fruit flavors, and so it doesn't compete. It plays right into those dishes.
Balance.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's what the whole key is to not only food but also wine is balance.
Andrew, I couldn't agree more. Our Chardonnay just pairs so well with so many dishes. And talking about food, it's on to our next dish, chilled sweet corn soup. This Chardonnay, there's a little bit of peppers in there and that spice and the sweetness, it just pairs so nicely with the Chardonnay.
Yeah. Certainly. I couldn't agree more. And I wasn't about to pronounce Vichyssoise.
No.
There was no way. I don't even know if I got it right.
I had no hope.
No, but sweet corn really plays off the beautiful ripe fruit flavors of this wine, and then the acidity will help again lift the fruit, lift the soup, and really just highlight all those flavors that we're really looking to show.
I know, it's amazing how, like, you wouldn't think soup and Chardonnay, but it just really does pair nicely, especially with those spices and everything in there.
No, for sure. And then I guess we kind of got to talk about where we are.
And where are we?
Well, we're here at the original family property that the Rombauers purchased in 1972. But we're right here in front of the iconic cave door, right below the tasting room, and about, 4 miles north of the town of St. Helena, up here in northern Napa Valley. We're surrounded by the beautiful gardens. It's crazy to walk through with a glass of wine and just look at the flowers that are really going and blooming right now. It's incredible. And really walking through these gardens, you get incredible sweeping views of the valley. Right below us you can see vineyards, the tree line, both sides of the valley really converge, and it's a beautiful, beautiful view. And what it really reminds me of is looking at the vineyards is what the Rombauers and Kerner really stressed was the importance of owning vineyards. And it took them about 20 years, but the first property was in 2002, the Buckley Estate Vineyard down in southern Carneros. And that is all Chardonnay. It's a huge key source for us. And it's still a key, 20 years later. And then in 2003, he purchased the Atlas Peak Vineyard up about 1,600 feet elevation in the Atlas Peak AVA. And then in 2005 and 10, Kerner bought 2 Valley Floor vineyards, 2005, Stice Lane, right here in St. Helena, and then 2010, our Bennett Lane property up in Calistoga. And that's mostly Cabernet Sauvignon with a little bit of Zinfandel and Petit Verdot, which really brings us the biggest property for Zinfandel for us that we've ever purchased.
Yes.
In 2011, we purchased the Twin Rivers Estate up in El Dorado County, and that really is the core component. It allows us to really make the Zinfandel consistently year in, year out that we're looking to make. And then in 2013, the true heart of our Chardonnay program, the Patriots Vineyard, named after and for Kerner Rombauer and all the Patriots that work here at Rombauer Vineyards. And really a beautiful, beautiful Chardonnay estate down in Carneros. And really they're the key to how these wines are so consistent and so well made.
Great fruit, makes great wine.
They do.
You mentioned, Andrew, some of our estate vineyards, and that got me thinking about our red wines. So why don't we pour ourselves some Zinfandel for our next course?
Yeah, I think I can handle that.
Thank you, Andrew. And then once you've done that, we should go for a walk in these caves here, because it wouldn't be red wines without the storage of our barrels in the caves here.
True. And I need a little stretch.
All right, welcome to the Rombauer Caves. Right now here, Andrew, we're about 30 feet below the tasting room. So these caves were built in the late 1990s, completely full. They hold about 2,500 barrels. The beauty about these caves, Andrew, as you feel the temperature right now,
very nice.
It's about 63 to 65 all year round, and a constant humidity of about 80%, which is perfect for aging these pearly barrels behind us.
And really sustainable, right?
It is.
There's no active cooling or humidity control.
It is, so it's perfect for our Cabernet and Merlot and our Napa Valley Zinfandel that we store here. So should we go outside and see what else is for dinner?
Yeah, let's go. It's so refreshing to be in the caves, but it really gets me thinking about the next pairing. So we have 2018 Rombauer Zinfandel in our glasses here. And really it takes us to our next pairing, the Korean-style gochujang pork, which I've only said like 10 times now to get right. But really, it has this hoisin like Asian barbecue sauce, and it'll really pair beautifully with the rich, ripe, bold flavors of the Zin. And the Zin has those spicy elements in the background that as you have the dish and you go back and you have a couple sips, you start seeing the depth and the layers of the wine. Initially, you'll have those big fruit flavors, but when you go in, you start seeing the subtle nuances. It really pairs beautifully with that style of food.
Yeah, I always love to see what chefs pair with Zinfandel. It's so versatile, and it's interesting to see if they're going to go the big, rich wine or sometimes dessert, which might be later.
Yeah.
Can't tell you yet. And then, but Andrew, where did Kerner start sourcing this fruit from?
Well, first wine, the Zinfandel, the first Zinfandel we made was 1990, and really Kerner, through some close friends and through the right connections, found the Sierra foothills as the really key source for our style of Zinfandel. And it's amazing. It's such an incredible area. It has tons of vineyards with century-old vines. It has a history that goes back to the early 1800s. El Dorado is actually gold country, like the founding of California. So it's an incredibly rich history, and these vineyards are producing world-class grapes that then we can make into beautiful world-class wines. But really for us, the Sierra foothills are key, and that's where our Twin Rivers estate is in El Dorado, and then we work with a good amount of growers in Amador to really keep sourcing the best Zinfandel that we can. And then just 2 years ago, 2019, we bought a vineyard and winery up there, the Rombauer Sierra foothills. Yep. And when we're talking about the Sierra foothills, Amador, El Dorado counties, yep, it's about an hour east of Sacramento on the way up to Tahoe. So it's really, it's about 2 hours from where we stand right now. Yep. But, going out of Sacramento, it's only about an hour east. A really beautiful area. And the history and the wines being made up there are really world class.
I know, it is. Just the history in general, like you talk to the local people up there, they're like third, fifth generation farmers up there. It really yep, is amazing. It's the history of California. All right, Andrew, it's off to our next pairing. Our pan-seared duck breast. This is probably my favorite. I love duck breast, especially this one's got an Asian plum glaze with it. And I know this Zinfandel with the spices in the background will help lift this dish and just pair fantastic. What do you think, Mac?
Well, yeah, no, I completely agree. And he's also doing like a burnt ends, which is like a smokiness to it, which to me really pairs, like Zinfandel's so great with barbecue. It almost brings out those subtle smoky flavors, and then you really have that richness of the fruit as well, and the spice pairing with that plum sauce. I think it's going to work perfectly.
Yeah, I forgot about those burnt ends. I had some burnt ends recently with some Zinfandel, and amazing. Yeah. So I'm excited. This wine, this pan duck, will be awesome. Mm-hmm. All right, so our final pairing for the evening is our 2018 Merlot. And Andrew, my glass is empty again, so...
I think it's yearning for it.
All right, so a little bit about the Merlot. So our Merlot is grown in the Carneros area. It's the southern end of Napa Valley. So what happens down there, during the day, it gets nice and warm, which allows us to get these nice, ripe flavors. But then the fog comes in and cools it down at night, which helps us retain this natural acidity. And then once it comes to the winery, we destem it, and then it runs through an optical sorter. And what was that? What's an optical sorter, Andrew?
I was thinking.
Good question. So what that is, after we've got the berries off the stems, it runs on a conveyor, and then a camera takes a photo of every berry, every stem, or every leaf comes through. And if it's unripe or green, an air jet will kick it off the conveyor, and it won't go into our tank or barrels. And so we're left with just ripe, rich, and the ripe berries for our wine. And so once it's in tank, or we also, this Merlot is about 30% barrel fermented. And so what that means is, instead of going to a tank to ferment, we actually ferment in our 59-gallon barrels. And so that we have trained cellar guys that pop the hoops off, take the head out, we fill them 3/4 full, and then we actually put the head back on, and we put it on specially designed racks where our cellar guys for harvest.
You're not straining your muscles.
No. Usually some good burly South Africans come and spin the barrels from 2 to 4 times a day. And what that does, the fruit and the integration of oak, it just makes it seamless on the palate, and this richness and texture that you just don't get in the tank it's just amazing. And it's only for our reserve program, and then our best fruit that comes in.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can see it on the palate. It really adds that plushness and texture and depth on the mid palate. It's just kind of, it just goes front to back, and it's smooth and velvety the whole way through.
It is.
I mean, it's incredible.
And Andrew, probably enough about the wine, really.
Yeah.
What are we going to pair it with?
Well, tonight, Chef has paired a steak au poivre. And really, classically people think of Cabernet as a great steak food, but really Merlot does a beautiful job because of the acidity.
Yep.
It helps highlight and cut through the fat of the steak, and then the pepperiness of a poivre sauce is highlighted with the rich fruit, and they kind of play off each other really beautifully. And something I really love about Merlot is, right off the back when it's young, it has these ripe, rich fruit, cherry flavors, plum. It has nice acidity, you know, velvety tannins, and it's just a beautifully drinking wine. And then as it ages, the fruit can subdue a little bit, and you get these savory components, and you get, you know, almost like a truffle element to come out. And that's where I think if you had this a little bit more aged, it would be incredible. It'd play on that truffle element even more. It would even highlight it more. But I think the, you know, with the young Merlot, it'll really bring out those characters of the wine.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really a beautiful wine with the plush tannins and the structure of it. Oh, yeah. Can't complain.
And how long, Andrew, do you reckon, like, you're talking about aging, and as it ages, like, I like it fresh and young, but as it get older, how long do you think?
Well, I think if you like it young, you know, that 3 to 7 year window is really beautiful. Yeah. And then once you start getting into that 10, 15 year window, I mean, it'll age up to, you know, 20, 25 years because of the natural acidity and the tannin structure. But really, you know, if you like it young, 3 to 7 is beautiful. And then that age character, I really love that 12 to 15 window. You know, the fruit's a little bit more subdued, but it really brings out a lot of different depth of flavors. So yeah, I couldn't complain more though. 18, especially right now, drinking so well. They're so open, vibrant, really lifted on the nose. Really beautiful fruit. Yeah.
All right, so we're on to our final pairing tonight, and it's dessert. It's my favorite part of dinner. So if you happen to have any zin left in your glass, which I happen to have, and Andrew's lucky enough to have some, tonight's going to pair with a chocolate bread pudding, which would be my favorite, and then a cherry compote. Yeah. And so Zinfandel, it's an amazing wine, and it can pair with chocolate, or it can handle up to that nice
smoky, meaty dishes, you know, like barbecue dishes. But really, it was kind of built for these dishes, these chocolate desserts. You know, really highlighting the fruit, but then the spice and that chocolate background element on Zin. It really will pair beautifully with this.
It does. I love a good chocolate and a good glass of Zin.
Yeah, we know. But really, I mean, I wish I had it in front of me right now.
I do.
But I'd really like to thank you all for spending the evening with us and listening to both of us. Well, it was great, and I'd really, if you have any questions about any of the wines or just really anything in general, or would like to visit the properties either here in St. Helena or over in the Sierra Foothills in Plymouth at the Rombauer Sierra Foothills, or see any of the events we're hosting later in the year, please visit us at rombauer.com. And I'd just like to say cheers and thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.